Am I the asshole for not doing anything when my husband chased his parents out of our house? Context. My F35 and husband, 35, met 10 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. When we were starting into the relationship, I told him that since young, I have always wanted to adopt children with the person I am getting married to, and if he didn't want that, then it would be best for us to be not together. He just smiled, kissed my forehead, and wholeheartedly agreed to it. He proposed to me 3 years into our relationship, and we happily got married a year later. 2 years after we got married, we decided it would be the right time to go ahead with the plan and adopt a child. We were going to adopt one child, but things happened, and we ended up adopting a pair of twins, who lost their parents in an accident. My husband and I could not bear to separate the siblings, and we felt a close bond with the kids after spending some time with them. They eventually became the very reason we live and love them with all our heart. Last year I got pregnant and gave birth to my biological child in late January this year. We have this tradition called the 100 Days celebration, so we invited all our relatives to the house in the evening for a ceremony. Of course, my Mill and Phil came too. She never once visited when we adopted our first 2 children, but she also was not against us adopting, so we didn't really care much. Before you guys ask why we didn't have a welcome ceremony for our older 2 children, we slowly introduced them to our family members so that they wouldn't feel overwhelmed. After the ceremony, both Mill and Phil pulled husband and I aside to ask us questions that had my blood boiling. I have never been this angry in my whole life. The questions being, now that you have your own child, do you still want to keep those 2 kids? I mean, one of them is disabled. Do you think you will have time for your own child? Don't you think you should focus more on your own child? And before I could react, my husband yelled at them. The sheer loudness shocked me. I have never seen him that angry in my life. He told his mother that all 3 are his children, to get the fuck out of the house and never ever come back. The love of my life was literally trembling with anger. They left without saying another word, probably from the shock too. My husband took both kids back to our room, hugged them and cried. After everyone we called it a night. My Mill called me, asked why I had not done anything to prevent my husband from chasing them out. I told her that he did the right thing. If my parents had said the same thing, I would have done the same thing. She said I was an asshole for not stopping him and that I was pitting him against her. I cut the call and went back to the room where my husband was just hugging the children, pecked him and fell asleep beside him. I am so proud of my husband. But on the other side, am I the asshole for not stopping him? Not the asshole. First of all, he is responsible for his own behavior and it's not your job to monitor and correct him. Second, he was right. Not the asshole. And neither is your husband. When relatives become cartoons of ignorance and poison in your family, boot him out. Your husband can declare a cooling off period or something, but it seems that their words were premeditated and they had time to think this through and still chose the most hurtful course of action possible. Condescending, callous, clueless, cold. Enjoy your family of 5, and forget them. Not the asshole. At all. This post was a wild ride. Your husband kissing your forehead when you brought up adoption and your description of your adopted twins being, the very reason we live, are the sweetest things. And reading what your Mill said had my blood boiling. Your Mill asked if you still wanted to keep your children. I'm baffled that she thought you would stand up for her after she said something so heartless. I'm proud of your husband too, and I hope he stays true to his comment that she should never come back. All 3 of your kids are lucky to have you both. NTA, you would be the asshole if you stopped him. Honestly surprised you weren't chasing them out with him. Don't let those grandparents near the kids again, they clearly don't have their best interest at heart. Not the asshole. If you allow them back into your lives, they will favor your bio child over your adopted children. Don't let them. Also, consider holding a 100-day celebration, belated, for your adopted children. Kids always notice this and are hyper-aware of the differences in treatment. Maybe a 100-month celebration? Call it anything you want. Not the asshole, not in the slightest. What awful, awful people. Your husband is awesome. Am I the asshole for telling my parents' friends the real reason why I disowned them? Some background. I, 22M. Used to think I was an only child because I didn't know my father's side of the family. My father is from Dresden in Germany. My mom is Latina. Well, I knew about them but never actually visited them, since we live in another country. It was only phone calls until last year when I visited my Naoma, grandma, that I found out something terrible. To summarize, my dad was married with 4 kids when he met my mom. My mom knew he was married, so my dad ended up divorcing his wife, because my mom got pregnant, and disowned his kids. My dad didn't pay child support and didn't see them again. I was disgusted by this because I never knew about this. My parents were fervent Catholics. They don't believe in divorce. And my dad was world's dad #1, and I always thought my mom was different, but she's just a homewrecker. So this was shocking, and I ended up disowning them. It's been almost a year. They constantly text me to let me know they miss me and wish to see me again, but I just ignore them. I have a relationship with his kids, and they've told me that my dad has reached out to them to make amends, but they just refuse. Here is the thing. I used to be religious, by force, but not anymore. My parents go to church and actively participate in every activity. They even attend a group of married couples every Thursday, and they are friends with this older couple who are some kind of role models in the church community. We'll call them K and J. K and J showed up at my house 2 weeks ago, because God told them to get me back to the right way. I'm sure my parents asked them to come because after they left, my parents texted me to ask if they came. So, they started lecturing me about the importance of obeying and honoring our parents because we obey and honor God, that I should fulfill my filial duties, etc., 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 among many other things. I was tired and didn't want to deal with them, so I said, "Okay. Tell my parents that if they want me back, they can come and face the issue for once in their lives, and before you keep trying to convince me to go back to them, you should know that the reason why I disowned them is that my dad is a cheater who abandoned 4 kids in another country and didn't bother to support in any way, and my mom is a homewrecker who knowingly made her way into a marriage." Their faces went white and they left. I haven't heard from them, but my cousin says that my parents haven't had it easy. She says that no one in the church talks to them and excluded them from activity this week. Tell me, am I the asshole? Not the asshole. This is a roller coaster. Your mom sucks. Your dad sucks. Thank God you are so mature to call them out on their BS. I also commend you on your maturity to reach out to your half-siblings and not hold a grudge against them. You are a dime a dozen, my dear. Edit. As it's been called out. You are not a dime a dozen rolling on the floor laughing, you're just a straight-up gem of a person. I'm leaving up my stupid line for other ADHD and autistic people to see me struggle with finding the right thing to say and failing miserably because my brain did the thing again, and I 100% thought I was giving a compliment. Lol, my bad y'all. Not the asshole. What's done in the dark surely comes to light. Your parents should have left you alone. Not the asshole. I think you are a good person for contacting your half-siblings and developing a relationship with them. You are not wrong to disgusted by your parents' actions and their hypocrisy. Going to church and praying a lot doesn't even begin to make up for abandoning a marriage and children. It seems to me that they ought to face up to the truth of the damage they did. Not the asshole. People shouldn't ask questions if they aren't prepared for the answers. There's an old mob saying, the only way for 3 people to keep a secret is if 2 of them are dead. When it's 7 people, and 4 of them are on Facebook, that's a secret that just isn't going to be kept. Your parents are lucky they were able to keep it secret as long as they did. Is this what the kids mean with, fuck around and find out? They sent 2 people from their church, to bring back their wayward son, and then the son spilled the tea, oh my. Or is it serve? I don't understand today's youth and their slang. I'm a 32-year-old woman and already a grumpy old man. Anyways, of course you are not the asshole. What your parents did, well, anyone can fall in love. But for fuck's sake, at the very least pay child support. Not the asshole, and I pat you on the back. This exact thing happened to my mom. Her dad left her at a very young age, disowned her and her 4 sisters, divorced my grandma, and married another woman and had kids with her. That kind of trauma stays with a person for a long time. I've seen my mom cry over him when things remind her of what happened. I've never resented a man I never knew more than I hate that man did what he did to my sweet, sweet mother and her family. This hits a little closer to home than I expected, but because I've seen the side of what happened to my mom, I feel very strongly that what you did was right. Your mom and dad fucking suck for what they did, and they need to face that fact. Best wishes to you, Op. Am I the asshole for not wanting to walk my husband through buying Mother's Day gifts? It's my first Mother's Day. All I asked him for was 3 things: flowers, a card, and a Starbucks coffee. First, he complained about me getting a coffee. Can't I just have a coffee at his parents' house that day? No, I want a Starbucks coffee. He reluctantly agrees. Then he complains about e-card. Why do I need a card? They're pointless and will just be thrown out anyways. I said because I'd like to keep it as a memory as my first one. Now I'm feeling agitated. Am I asking for too much? We're in the dollar store, and he says, "Oh, I can buy Mother's Day cards here. Pick one out." But I tell him I don't want to see it. It should be him putting the thought and effort into finding a nice one. He chooses out one randomly for both his mom and I with hardly reading them. Fine. Now today, he's asking me where to buy flowers. I said I don't know. Grocery store? Pretty much everywhere has them. We go to the store. He's asking me to come choose the ones I like. I said I literally don't care if they're weeds at this point. The point was to show appreciation through a small surprise, and I wouldn't be upset with any kind of flower. He literally could not mess this up. Maybe I'm being in awe, but I just feel like I've been involved in every step of planning for this little surprise I asked for today. It's not like he's usually clueless with gifts. He's actually quite thoughtful with birthday and Christmas gifts and understands the importance of keeping me out of the loop with those things. But he's made every part of this feel like I'm asking for too much, and like I have to do the work myself. It just doesn't feel genuine. I told him he doesn't have to get me anything if he doesn't want to, and now he's mad at me saying I made him feel like a bad husband, father. Am I the asshole? ETA. Thanks to everyone who replied so far. I figured I'd update since I found this pretty funny. We got to his parents' house for breakfast, and sitting at my spot was a coffee, 2 cards from them, and flowers from them. He didn't know this was happening. They said, "See, that's how you're supposed to do it." And I laughed so hard because of the irony. Not the asshole and #10. And #10. Jesus Christ, what is it with my gender? How fucking infantile and useless are we going to let ourselves be? Not the asshole. He should feel bad. He's acting as though simple little gestures that would make you feel special are unreasonable requests. I sure hope this doesn't become a pattern, because there is nothing worse than when your partner acts like easy gestures of love are major burdens. This has weaponized incompetence written all over it. Let me guess. He doesn't know how to cook or do laundry either. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. But he's made every part of this feel like I'm asking for too much. Why did you marry a hapless child who drags his feet if it isn't something he specifically wants? Now he's mad at me saying I made him feel like a bad husband, father. No. You're mad at him because he's lazy and shows the emotional intelligence of a turnip. You can see with crystal clarity that he doesn't respect you or the work you do as the mother of his kid. Not the asshole. You should Google weaponized incompetence. Not the asshole. Give him the same treatment on Father's Day to see how he feels. Am I the asshole for blowing up on my husband after he told me why he didn't get me a Mother's Day gift? I lost my son at the age of 7 few months ago due to illness. My husband is his stepdad. Grief is still pretty much raw for me, but I make sure I don't bother others with my burden. Although my husband has been saying that I've become lazy and neglectful towards home chores, work, etc., he's partially right, but those who have been in my place know how hard it is just to get out of bed these days. This is my first Mother's Day without my son. The hurt is at highest. I went out for a walk and came home to find that a lot of family and close friends sent gifts to me to cheer me up. Some gifts were like mementos, which really touched my heart. My husband came home an hour ago and excitedly showed him what everyone sent for me for Mother's Day. He made a face and said that that was nice. I noticed that he didn't bring anything, but I asked just to make sure. He told me he intended to not bring a Mother's Day gift. I asked why and he said didn't feel like I should hear it, but I insisted. He nonchalantly told me that it's because he thought I'm no longer a mother. I was baffled by this response. I blew up on him, but he told me he meant this. Technically, I asked if he thought that I can no longer call myself a mother just because my son passed. He said no, but what he meant to say is that these circumstances are different, and refused to expand on his argument. I started a big fight with him about it, and he went upstairs after saying that I was lashing out at him for no reason and that I should control my temper, and has been staying there so far. I don't know if I went too far here, but it seems like I did, because he's so upset and refusing to come downstairs and speak to me. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your son will always be your son, which means you will always be a mother. There is no such thing as being an ex-mom. Your husband could turn into an ex-husband, though, and maybe he should. NTA. The correct response would be, I'm always a mother, but I'm no longer your wife. I'm so sorry for your loss. Wow. We lost our 5-year-old son in 2001. Not once in 21 years had my husband, also the stepdad, ever insinuated that made me any less Brandon's mother. Super not the asshole, and your husband is lucky he's not mine. Those would have been the last words out of his mouth. I can't even. Oh Christ, not the asshole. I read the title. Got to the first paragraph. Thought, Please God don't say he told her she's not a mother anymore, and of course he did. That is such an awful, thoughtless thing to say, and he is absolutely an asshole for it. The in this situation. You are not. I'm so sorry for your loss. Edit. Not thoughtless, actually. Fucking heartless. Oh my love, you are still a mom. A mom without her child is so awful it doesn't have a name. You have lovely family and friends, but your husband. I don't have the words. He's more concerned with the housework than supporting you. He doesn't think you're a mother anymore? Cruel. Not the asshole. Not the asshole. Divorce him and never turn back. He's a repulsive excuse for a human.